Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We will give folks a few minutes to trickle in. I know we've got some great content for you today. We are proud to bring to you some incredible speakers, folks with lived experience, and folks who are well-versed in the self-employment and entrepreneurship space for individuals with Down syndrome and other disabilities. My name is Ryan Rotundo. I will get us started here in just a moment. Right. We'll give folks a little bit more time. Welcome, welcome. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday last week. Thank you for joining us today. All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. So again, hello everyone, welcome and thank you for joining the National Down Syndrome Society's webinar, How to Support Individuals with Down Syndrome to Start Their Own Business, Turning Self-Employment Dreams into Reality. As we celebrate National Entrepreneurship Month, we're excited to have you with us today. And today we will also be exploring how individuals with Down syndrome can leverage state services to fund and launch their businesses. My name is Ryan Rotundo, and I'm the Director of Programs here at the National Down Syndrome Society. Before we dive into today's webinar, I would like to go over just a few housekeeping items to ensure that everyone has an enjoyable experience throughout today's webinar. First, if you have or experience any technical issues during the webinar, please use the chat function to notify our support team, and they will do their best to assist you promptly. Secondly, our presenters will answer questions at the end of the webinar, so we encourage you to submit your questions throughout the webinar using the Q&A feature located near the bottom of your screen. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as possible during the designated Q&A time. If we are unable to answer your questions during the event, or you have a very specific question or maybe one of a more personal note, we will be sharing an email address toward the end of today's webinar that you can use to contact us. We will also be sharing contact information for today's speakers. Please note that we will not be using the raise hand feature throughout today's webinar. The webinar is being recorded and will be shared on the NDSS YouTube channel and the NDSS website within just a few days after the event. You will receive an email with a link within the next couple of days and links to some of the resources mentioned in today's presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. Let's get started. Founded in 1979, and yes, if you're doing the math there, we are celebrating our 45th anniversary this year. The National Down Syndrome Society, or NDSS's mission, is to empower individuals with Down syndrome and their families by driving policy change, providing resources, engaging with local communities, and shifting public perceptions. NDSS supports and advocates for the Down syndrome community by focusing on three key areas of programming: resources and support, advocacy and policy, and community engagement. We're going to break these down just a little bit. For resources and support, a couple things that we really like to offer and focus on are one, a 1-800 helpline and an info box email address that anyone can reach out to at any time with any sort of question you may have. We also develop resources and information covering birth to end-of-life care on all topics, including education, employment, health and wellness, aging, and caregiving. We encourage you all to check out the resources section of our website. Something that's a little bit more pertinent to this conversation today is a great resource that we've developed recently in partnership with one of the speakers on this call today, is our Entrepreneurship Guide. The NDSS Entrepreneurship Guide was created in collaboration with a number of entrepreneurs with Down syndrome organizations, and a partner that we have worked with on many projects, Celebrate EDU, a nonprofit organization dedicated to breaking down the barriers to entrepreneurship for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities across the United States. This resource was designed to serve as an introduction to entrepreneurship for those that may be considering starting their own business. So as you'll learn on this call, there are a lot of other steps and considerations to starting your own business, but this resource is a great way to start conversations with your loved one and with your family. Something else that we are very excited to introduce to you all for the very first time ever is the National Down Syndrome Society's Holiday Gift Guide. So this is a project and a partnership opportunity that we launched for the first time this year for many of our entrepreneurs. And if you're looking to support some of these entrepreneurs with Down syndrome this holiday season, we would encourage you to check out our holiday gift guide to find the perfect gift. Another area that NDSS focuses on to support the Down syndrome community is through advocacy and policy work. We advocate at the federal, state, and local levels. We develop and improve laws to positively impact people with Down syndrome across the country and affirm their human rights. And with community engagement, we offer a number of scholarships and grants. We lead the National Buddy Walk program that kicks off the Buddy Walk season and other Buddy Walks across the country with local Down syndrome affiliate groups. We also do a Times Square video in the middle of New York City to promote and to share amazing images of individuals with Down syndrome from all across the country. We do have a number of runs and Down syndrome in our Down syndrome ambassador program, and we host a variety of awareness building and fundraising events throughout the year. Just a couple of our upcoming events. In the year 2025, we will have our gala, our annual Down Syndrome Advocacy Conference in Washington, D.C., where you will get to meet face-to-face with legislators that may be your representatives or people who we have identified as our Down syndrome legislative champions. So we would encourage you to take a look at those events, as well as a great 3-day opportunity to bring together advocates, families, professionals, and individuals with Down syndrome to learn, connect, and inspire change on Capitol Hill. We hope that you'll join us in 2025. And there are a couple links in the chat as well to some of these events. And it is my pleasure now to introduce you to today's speaker, or one of today's speakers, Sue Babin. Sue has been working in the field of developmental disabilities for over 40 years. She was the administrator of the Office of Quality Assurance for the Rhode Island State Division of Developmental Disabilities for 32 years, advocating for human rights of people with disabilities and overseeing investigations on abuse, neglect, and mistreatment, administrator for supported employment statewide grants, program manager for Rhode Island's Home and Community-Based Services waiver, and responsible for designing, monitoring, and quality improvement programs for the DD community agencies. For the last 14 years, she has been a special projects coordinator for the Rhode Island Developmental Disability Council, staff to the Systems Advocacy Committee, and founder and project director for Rhode Island Self-Employment Business Incubator, the spirit of the Individual Enterprise Project since 2018. Sue has a master's degree in public administration and is a graduate of Leadership Rhode Island's Omicron class, and was a recipient of the 2021 for Providence Business News annual Rhode Island's Leaders and Achievers Awards. We're also thrilled to introduce you and welcome Katie and Claudia Lowe, today's presenters. Katie is the proud owner of Cheetah Greetings, and she'll share more about her business later in the program. Joining her is Claudia, Katie's mom, and business specialist with the Rhode Island Self-Employment Business Incubator. Claudia is the co-founder of the Rhode Island Self-Direct Coalition and previously served as a coordinator for the Down Syndrome Society of Rhode Island for 20 years. There are going to be some links in the chat. And with that, I will turn it over to Sue.
Thank you, Ryan. Very happy to be here today to talk about our project from Rhode Island, and for you to meet Katie and Claudia Lowe a little bit later. So what I'm going to talk about is a little bit to give you an overview of the Rhode Island Self-Employment Initiative. And I will say that when we started our project back in late 2017, 2018, nobody in the state was really doing self-employment. Here we are 8 years later, and everybody knows about this project in our state. And so we've gone from something that really wasn't an option for people with disabilities to something that everybody knows about, whether it's transition centers, schools, or adult programs. I'm going to talk a little about why self-employment is really important, the benefits that we've seen with our self-employment initiative. Then I'm going to focus in on some of the key program components and what we think makes our program successful. I'm going to touch a bit on some funding sources that we've utilized, and then give you some concrete tips and recommendations of what you might want to do next if you were considering starting a program. I do want to say that up in this picture here, in the bottom of the screen, there is Stephanie Syrup, and her business is called Favorables. It's little 3D greeting cards that you can stuff chocolates in. They're great as a incentive for staff, for just to say thank you, get well. She's been doing that business for about 8 years. And then up in the right-hand corner is Alton Stuckey, who does amazing portraits. His focus on detail is just incredible. Next slide, please. So, why did we start this? Well, actually, you're going to be talking with the two people that really were the catalyst for getting this going in Rhode Island, and that's Katie and Claudia Lowe. Katie and Claudia had approached me when I started to work for the DD Council, and they said, Katie is looking to start her own DJ business. Where can we get some resources? And so we talked about going to either DD or Developmental Disabilities or Voc Rehab. We had approached both of them, but they were not too encouraging about providing supports for self-employment. And what they were saying is, we'd like to see a business plan or something specific so that we know for sure that Katie's going to start this business. Even though she already had about 1,000 songs on her computer, she had been doing a few gigs. So what Claudia, Katie, and I did, we started to take some local business classes that were offered by entities that are affiliated with the Small Business Administration in our state. Every state has them. Those classes are typically free. You can either go in person or you can do them online. And when we took those classes, what we found was that the curriculums were really good information, but too complicated for individuals with disabilities. And so I asked the director of one of the local small business programs if we could take the curriculum that they had, the different topic areas, and turn that into something that would be a little bit more understandable to individuals with disabilities. And then we would use their staff to actually do the training of those particular modules. And they said yes. So we have been working on that since 2018. We were successful in receiving funding from the State Department of Labor and Training, which is the entity in the state that provides funding for workforce development. So we did not get funds from developmental disabilities or from mental health or from Voc Rehab. We went right to the funding source for all state programs for workforce development. Next slide, please. Well, why? Why self-employment? Well, I mean, you all know, especially you guys that are family members out there or individuals with disabilities, sometimes people apply for jobs and they just don't get the position. Sometimes they go on an interview and they still don't get the job, which is really discouraging to people. Sometimes there's barriers that prevent people from obtaining the job they want, such as transportation. Even in Rhode Island, where you can get anywhere within an hour, 60 minutes, any part of our state, we have transportation issues in the rural areas. And yep, we do have rural areas in our state. So it's hard for people to actually get transportation to the job. What's good about self-employment is that the person makes the choice to work at something really meaningful to them, something that they're good at. Maybe it's a hobby that they're going to turn into a business. And so they get to spend time working on something that they're really excited about, they have a passion for, and they can work at their own pace. The other thing that's amazing about self-employment is that it gives us all an opportunity to demonstrate the value and contributions that people with disabilities who are business owners can make to local economies as well as improve their own financial futures. Next slide, please. Some more benefits is that, well, I already said this one, people work in a job that they really love and can control themselves. So everything about self-employment gives the person the opportunity to make the decisions. It's an opportunity to network and meet people, interact with customers. And when you interact with customers, the person is automatically going to be improving their social skills, communication, and independence. What we've seen that is totally amazing is the increased self-esteem by people who are truly proud to be a boss. You'll hear it from Katie in a little bit, and a business owner. On the right, in the photo that you see, is a young man by the name of Michael Coyne, who has opened his own business called Red, White, and Brew. It's a coffee shop. And he also has a retail shop that's called the Budding Violet that actually sells items by about 60 or so entrepreneurs across the state, half of which are individuals with disabilities who participated in our program. When I first met Mike, he was laying on the floor of the day program and not doing anything. And you can tell just by the smile on his face there how proud he is to be a business owner. If you Google Michael Coyne and Red, White, and Brew, you'll see a bunch of videos on Michael because he's actually done some webinars across the country on his business. The other thing about self-employment, you get to set your own hours versus time that's set by somebody else. And so as we've said, you can spend as little time as you want on your business or 100 hours a week if that's what you want to spend on your business. Next slide, please. So here's our program components. The first thing that we found out in 2017 and 2018, we started with a little pilot project with about 5 people. The business classes are really important because they give people the concrete information that they need to develop a business plan. So our classes are things like, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur? The steps that are involved in starting a business. Who's your target market? Not everybody is going to want to buy what you have to sell. What's your elevator pitch? What can you say about your business or about yourself that gets people interested, that they want to know more and they want to buy from you? What are you doing for marketing so that people know about your business? How are you using social media to promote your business? We have a program on accounting and finances. How are you keeping track of your expenses and your sales? And then lastly, it's all about the business plan. So we take each one of those program areas and we plop that into what we call a business portfolio. So it includes a whole lot more information besides that's in a business plan. So the business classes are easy. What we have found is the ongoing support that entrepreneurs need in order to be successful. And that's how we have built this program out. So besides the business classes, we run a business series, 3 series a year of those 8 business classes. We have 12 to 15 people that are in each of the classes. The majority of people are, in fact, people with developmental disabilities, but we have also included people without disabilities that are interested in being an entrepreneur. And initially, people said, that's not going to work, but it has worked. And it's really been great because what happens here is the people from the general public get to see individuals with disabilities as people just like anyone else. And that's what we really want. So some of the other components, we have one-to-one business technical support. So anybody that is the instructor for one of those 8 classes can meet with the individuals that are starting the business to talk to them in more depth about a topic that's of interest to them. For example, marketing is the key thing. You can have a great idea, but if you don't figure out how to market that idea, people aren't going to buy your product. So everybody wants to talk with our marketing instructor. We also have staff who are resource mentors. Claudia is one of them. And I was smart enough to hire 3 crackerjack parents who all have sons and daughters who have their own business to be my staff. Because who knows better than them the things that people have to go through in order to be a successful entrepreneur. So I hired those 3 family members, and we also hired a special education person who retired from her position to also be a staff mentor. So anybody that comes into the program gets a staff mentor. We have peer mentors who are individuals with disabilities that own their own businesses that are also come to the classes and are a support to the entrepreneurs. I'm going to skip the weekly entrepreneurs forum because we're going to talk about that later. Everybody needs to have startup money for their business. So we provide mini grants for startup costs. They can be anywhere from $500 to well over $1,000 for equipment, supplies, materials, whatever it is that people need for their business. We help people to create their own business card with a logo. And if they want a website or a Facebook page, we also help them to create that as well. We hired a public relations agency to do all of our marketing on our project, as well as help to facilitate individual stories in local newspapers about the people that are entrepreneurs and graduating from the program. So we're very fortunate to be able to have those media stories, and we produce not for everybody, but for a number of people, short little videos, a 3 to 4 minute video on the person and their business so that they can put that on their website. And our public relations person is somebody that used to work for the Small Business Administration. She's a former teacher, instructor for them. She is married to one of the biggest radio announcers in the state of Rhode Island. She's worked in local TV stations. So the connections that she has is absolutely amazing for our entrepreneurs. Um, we provide ongoing support for selling platforms. All right, what does that mean? People can have a good idea, but you have to figure out, where am I going to sell my product or my service? Am I doing it online? Am I selling it in a storefront? Am I going to vendor shows? So we help people to really think about what's the best selling platform for them. And for people that choose vendor shows, we've bought the tents and the tables that people need for those various vendor shows. And we even pay the vendor fee for people to go to those shows. So entrepreneurs just need to show up and sell their stuff. We've helped people to purchase tablecloths with their logo on it so that they look professional, just like any other vendor that's out there. We've created a paid speakers bureau with, I think we have over 20 people that are in that speakers bureau right now, entrepreneurs that have graduated from the program. And we create a PowerPoint for each one of those entrepreneurs to help them with speaking about their business. How did they get started? What lessons did they learn? What are they selling? And what advice do they have for other people with disabilities about being a business owner? And lastly, the weekly entrepreneurs forum is every week. It's on Wednesdays from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We're going to invite you all to one of them later on in this presentation. But that's a way for anybody that's on the call to meet some of the entrepreneurs that we work with, to ask whatever questions you might have. And that is an open meeting every week that we have to talk about what are people struggling with? What do people need help with? What are some things that are upcoming that you need to focus your business on? After the holiday season, for example, we need to think about Valentine's Day. So what are you doing to market your business for Valentine's Day and to help people to really think about what they can do to enhance their products? Next slide, please. All right, so funding. Well, what we did, as I said, was every state has a Department of Labor and Training that provides funding for various entities out there for workforce development. But not every state has programs that the Department of Labor and Training funds for individuals with disabilities. That's one of their target population groups, along with veterans and minorities and other individuals. So check it out. Every year they have that funding available, and they're always looking for new providers. Our state decided back in 2018 that they wanted to set aside some of their state funding specifically for various target populations. So that opened up the door for us, because the Department of Labor and Training was aware that they really were not providing training services to individuals with disabilities as well as other individuals. So they set aside some funding. We applied for it. We've applied every year, and we have been successful in receiving that grant every year from them. Um, you can also look for funding from the State Division of Developmental Disabilities, the State Vocational Rehab, to start up a small pilot project for self-employment. all across the country, this is a growing area of interest for people with disabilities. And I know that there's been some national funding for state voc rehab agencies all on self-employment over the last 3 years. There's been a focus on that. So contact your state DD, contact your state VR, and find out what they might have available. Another thing that's really important is to connect people as a participant for Voc Rehab. Sometimes people will get services from Voc Rehab, they get a job, and then they get closed out of Voc Rehab. But you can reopen somebody's case with Voc Rehab if they have a different vocational goal, such as starting a business. And what they provide is they'll give a grant to individuals for, again, startup costs for equipment, supplies, and materials. When I first started our project here earlier in 2018, as I said, Katie had approached VR and they weren't too interested in providing any funding. Today, they're giving out thousands of dollars to entrepreneurs that are graduating from our program. So they've gone from, I don't know if this is a good idea, to not only supporting people with grants, but referring people to our program. Another thing that's important to look into, and every state may or may not have this service under the waiver. In Rhode Island, we call it self-directed services, where you can choose and hire your own staff for support and get funding through a designated fiscal intermediary, which is an agency that basically processes your payment on a monthly or every other week basis for the staff that may work with an individual. For example, Katie has a couple of people who work with her and help her with her business activities. So self-directed services allows you to, and in Rhode Island, we can pay people anywhere from $20 an hour up to $35 an hour for self-directed supports to hire their own staff. So that's higher than what many staff that are direct support professionals in community agencies receive. And so there's an incentive for people to want to work on the self-directed supports. And so families can take that control of carving out a job description of exactly what it is that they want the staff to do for their family member. Next slide, please. There's also a lot of free classes. I told you that I took classes from the local small business administration. So if you just Google small business administration programs in your state, you'll find a list of programs. Some of them are online. The websites are also really good. They have a lot of resources that are there. You can, in addition, research local foundations for grants. We have a grant from the Fogarty Foundation to also provide our some of our entrepreneurs with developmental disabilities mini grants of $250 to $500 for additional startup costs for their business. And you can request from your state DD agency under the goods and services category under the Medicaid waiver. I know that may sound kind of funny, but that's what the feds call it. And it allows you to purchase various kinds of services. Here in Rhode Island, it allows people to purchase things like gym memberships, belong to different clubs, to get personal training, access technology. What we're not funding, that we're pushing the state on, is to actually fund the business startup costs. We do have the state given that serious consideration at this point, but it's not currently an allowable service. But it's going to be. The next slide, please. So I want to just say, I want to just give you a couple of four things that make sense to me. And I mentioned this first one, the state folk rehab, because I think lots of times families or people think, well, we already got services from them and they closed us out, so I guess that's the end of it. That's not how it works. So you can contact state folk rehab and complete another application for your family member to become eligible for their services. Once they're eligible, then you could talk to them about programs and funding that they might already have for business classes. They may have a contract with a community agency for something similar to what we have here, a business series. And they all have grants available for people to be able to purchase the supplies and startup costs that they need for their business. Second, research, marketing, and other important topics for business success. There's a national or state by state organization called SCORE, which is Senior Corps of Retired Executives. And those are people from every state who have retired in a particular industry that are willing to share their knowledge base and expertise with anybody that's interested in starting a business. So, for example, Katie with her DJ business, she could have contacted SCORE to find out who's in the music industry. Is there anybody that's been a DJ and wants to share his or her learning or lessons learned from that particular business? So you can meet with a SCORE person on a particular industry. You can meet with them on marketing. You could meet with them on accounting. You can meet with them on any topic that relates to business. And that's their website there. Their website also has a one-page business plan that they call a business model canvas that's really simple to use. And they have other tabs for people that are just getting started with a business and just want to kind of flesh out an idea, as well as people that already have a business and are trying to figure out how to grow it. So there's a lot of resources there. The third tip is, you know what? Start small. Sometimes when you think about starting a business, you get overwhelmed with how am I going to do all of this? Start small. Get feedback from families or friends or staff on your products or services, what people like about them, and what they think could be improved or what they wish that you would do. Then branch off. So you don't want to get overwhelmed right away with your business. You really want to get focused, do it well, and then branch out. If any of you know Colette DeVito from Massachusetts, she has a chocolate chip cookie business, and she started it very small, initially with some of her mom's friends. And what happened was a local TV station came and interviewed her. And when that TV station interviewed her, that feed of that segment that was on a local Boston station went live all across the country. And what happened in a matter of days was Colette got orders for, I think it was $140,000 chocolate chip cookies. Well, she wasn't ready for that. And so everybody in her family had to rush in and help her. And they got all sorts of people to really get going with making all of those cookies. So when you market your business, you got to be ready for to be able to provide that item or that service within a reasonable time period. So really kind of walk slowly until you kind of get it going. And then lastly, we have that Entrepreneurs Forum weekly meeting. I think Amanda's going to put it in the chat. It's today at 3 o'clock, 3 to 4 o'clock. We meet every week. The link will be, there it is. It's in the chat now. The link is the same every week. So if you want to pop in today, we'd love to have you guys. If you want to pop in next week, that's fine too. We hope to see you and you'll meet some of our entrepreneurs. What we're going to be talking about today is an event that we had over the weekend on Saturday called Small Business Saturday Shop RI. We are the only state in the country to create an event like that, which is a pop-up mall. We rented out one of our largest hotels in the state, and we've been doing this since 2018, where we integrate people with disabilities with other entrepreneurs and small businesses to sell their products and services for the upcoming holiday season. When we first started in 2018, we had 92 vendors and 12 were people with disabilities. This weekend, we had 166 local entrepreneurs and small businesses, and 26 were people with disabilities. People did really well. People made anywhere from a couple of $100 up to almost $2,000. Entrepreneurs with disabilities. Other entrepreneurs made even more money than $2,000. It's an extremely successful event, and it's just great to see people with disabilities out there with other entrepreneurs. And what the public sees when they come in the door are small business owners. They don't see disability, which is really great. And that's another activity that any state could easily replicate. The next slide, I think, is resources that are out there all across the country. There's a link for Rhode Island's Self-Employment Business Incubator that will take you to our DD Council page. You'll see some individual stories of people with disabilities, some newspaper articles, and other resources that we have relating to our program. Then there's the great agency, Celebrate EDU, which Ryan mentioned in the beginning, and we have partnered with them for the last couple of years on a number of activities. They're out of Colorado, and Synergy's work, which I believe is in Georgia, Georgia or Florida, I get them mixed up. But also another national organization that provides self-employment for people that are interested. Under the business resources, there's the Small Business Administration link, SCORE. The Disability Employment Technical Assistance Center is a national resource on a variety of different topics. So you just have to click on the self-employment tab and you'll see a bunch of information there on self-employment, chambers of commerce, and then some really great resources, 10 questions about self-employment for people with disabilities, a really good tool, a quick reference guide, entrepreneurship from the NDI, National Disability Institute, the plan for achieving self-support, and work incentive planning and assistance, the WIPA program, SSA. So those are all, you'll have a copy of this, these slide decks, so you'll be able to click on these links when you get them. And with that ends my presentation, and I think we're going to move on now to Katie and Claudia.
Okay. Hi guys. Welcome. I'm Claudia Lowe, and this is my daughter,
Katie Lowe.
Yep. And what is the name of your business again?
Tudor Greetings.
And what kind of business is it again? What kind of business is it?
The cards.
Cards. Next slide, please. So just to give you guys a little bit of a background about how we lead self-employment, we just want to cover a couple of things. So after customizing a transition program for Katie, myself in high school, we laid the groundwork for hiring an agency to help Katie after graduation, and to just find employment and things like that. Katie volunteered at a lot of places. She volunteered at a physical therapy office. She volunteered at Cornerstone Adult Care, which is like an Alzheimer's center. And it was around that time that Katie started asking about becoming a DJ. So we approached the agency and asked if, Katie, someone that worked at the agency was a DJ. So I had asked if it would be possible for Katie to go in and shadow the gentleman. And I was met with a big fat no, because that would have included overtime, and they wouldn't pay overtime. So I couldn't wrap my brain around how I was going to get Katie to shadow someone when not everybody does DJing from 9 to 5. Usually DJing is on a Friday or a Saturday evening. So I started racking my brain, and in Rhode Island, we have self-direct services. And it was at that point that I recognized that perhaps we would have to do that because it would be more open-ended. We could have Katie do what she wanted to do, not work around an agency with overtime and all of that jazz. And I do want to say that we did try conventional employment for a while, and sadly, it became similar to what happened in school. So if there was a problem or something along that line, I would get a telephone call and that kind of thing, which I figured, Katie's not having any fun doing this. So maybe we need to look somewhere else. So we did do the DJing, right?
Mhm.
And we have worked with one of the agencies in the state, and geez, we still work for them.
Mhm.
In fact, a week from Saturday, we're doing their holiday party, right?
Yes.
We do we do monthly dances for them, and we DJ, and we have a lot of fun. During the pandemic, we did, believe it or not, we had dances on Zoom, which
Zoom, yes.
seems kind of weird, but we did. And we also had nights where we played Name That Tune. And I have to say that these guys know music better than anybody in the world. But in the meantime, while we were doing this, I like to craft. I'm a crafter. I'm a sewer. I do a bunch of stuff, and so I bought a Cricut electric cutting machine, and Katie would watch me and help me in some places, and she said to me, Mom, can I do that? I wanna do that. I wanna make cards like you're making. So we started out doing like cards that were made with scrapbook paper and ink pad, like with stamps and stuff like that. And then during the pandemic, we graduated into Katie now uses a Cricut Joy, and you'll see some sample of her cards coming up in the next slides. And so, kind of the rest is history. And so I know Sue mentioned it earlier about feeling overwhelmed. And that was one of the things that I was so afraid was going to happen, was that we would get overwhelmed and we wouldn't have enough merchandise to sell to people, and on it went. Of course, that's all you need to tell me. And I can worry someone under the table, basically. So, but what brought me down to earth again was our lovely lady that we have for marketing. And she said, it's not a big deal. You just take orders. And I thought, okay, that makes sense. So, we've learned over these years, we've learned to kind of figure out how to make accommodations for ourselves even, and all that kind of stuff. You can, if you want to change the slide, move next slide. Okay, so here are some of Katie's cards, right, Kate?
Mm-hmm.
So we have up here, right?
It's a butterfly card
Yep, it's about the birthday. Yep.
and a happy birthday card.
Yep. And what do we well, here's one of the ones that you used to make with scrapbook paper, right? And ink.
Yes.
Yep, and patent stamps. And then what were these? We just sold a ton of those, right?
Happy cards.
Halloween cards. And then over here on the bottom right hand corner, what are those? What kind of cards are those?
List of Santa.
The list for Santa. These are a huge item.
Pins.
Yep. They're a huge item, right? You sold a ton of those.
Yeah, yeah.
We had one lady buy almost $100 worth of those on Saturday. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, we always try to, kind of up it. Like every year we reassess what's going on and how can we, make it fresh and things like that. So a couple of years ago, we said, oh, I wonder what's this? And I said, oh, we can make pins. So we started making pins. Katie likes making pins with her staff person. Oh, I should probably get back to that. So Katie, we do self-direction. We have an agency that is the fiscal intermediary. And right now, Katie has, how many staff? We have Tanya, Sarah, me. So Katie has 4 people. Yep. She has 4 staff people, 2 of whom help, actually 5. 3 of whom help with cards. Some of them are just for like going into community. So Katie's not home alone. People make it sound like I keep her chained to the basement, but I really don't. She works on her cards 4 out of the 5 days. And then other days she goes She has weekends with my brother, and she has
Mhm.
a friend, and they go to lunch. Next slide, please. And here's more example of Katie's cards. And Katie, maybe we can talk about a little bit of these. So Katie, one of the things that we did learn in classes, right, was about
Mhm.
social enterprises.
Yes.
And you are a social enterprise because what are these two cards for?
Pet. Was it pet?
No, those are
That's not it.
what? Adoption?
Is it?
Adoption cards. Those are the two cards in the pink. It's the same card, but the door opens and we have all the little
It's more.
children.
Yep.
Yep. And Katie, you stamped those, right?
Yes.
Yep. You stamped
Is
those.
it a pet? Is everything?
A pet sympathy card. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do we have here? Those are also adoption, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then on World Down Syndrome Day and Down Syndrome Awareness Month, Katie and usually always comes up with a card
Mm-hmm.
for ooh, I don't know if we can see it, Kate, because it's blurry. You gotta get it. Let's see. Move it back. Shucks, you can't see. I don't think you guys can see it. Can I unblur my background from this? Yep, I can. Perfect. So Katie she designs a card for World Down Syndrome Day and stuff. And in this card, Katie and her job coach decided to do something that had three. So they did, in the Rhode Island flavor, we did 3 seashells. So to sort of signify the third copy of the extra chromosome. And then we donate a portion of the proceeds to NDSS, NDSC,
Mm-hmm.
and then the village and oh gosh, the pet. I can't think of what the pet thing is.
Pet. Everything.
I don't remember what that goes through. Sorry. You can to the next slide, please. So Katie, like, why did you start your business? We talked about this a little bit before, but and that's the neatest our craft bar has ever looked. My kids started to call. It used to be a bar. We had a bar in our basement, and then it was like we're not using that anymore, so we're going to use it as a craft bar. So that's what we call the craft bar where Katie works. So who is the boss of Cheetah Greetings?
Me.
You. Okay, and so do you like being the boss?
Yes.
Okay. And why do you like making cards? What does it do to people? Do you think it makes them happy?
Makes it happy. Yes.
Yeah, it makes people happy. And during the pandemic, we made some cards, right, for our family.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we did a lot of that. We did a lot of cards for we had a lot of exchanges in the mailbox during the pandemic where people bought cards. We even wrote in them for people. We did a whole bunch of different things that we never in a million years thought we'd ever do, but we did. The other thing that's fun too is you make your cards do you make the cards when I want you to or when you want to?
I want to.
When you want to, that's right. Next slide, please. So how did the Rhode Island Developmental Disabilities Council self-employment class help you, Kate? So you learned a lot from the classes, right? And we're still learning,
Yes.
aren't we? So you learned how to market your business, right? And the next thing is we learn how to do social media.
Yeah.
So what social media do you have? What does Di help you do with social media? You're on what? It comes on your phone a lot and you say, Mom, I got this. What is that? It's
The Facebook?
Facebook. Yep. And what's the other one?
Just an email. Instagram.
Instagram. Yep. And then Katie, on Thursday afternoons, what do? We have a 3:00 meeting.
Yes.
Yep. And Mom always forgets, and I have the earbuds in, and
Yes.
you have to
Earbuds, yes.
remind me. She always sends me a text and says, I'm coming down, take the earbuds out. And we learned how to do an elevator pitch and a business plan, right? And we learned about a business card too, right?
Yes.
Because there's your business card. Next slide, please. So what else did you get out of the classes and other support? So um, you understood the importance of being a social enterprise, right? To give back to your community.
Yes.
So we do that quite often. And
Yes.
you also received a grant, right?
Yes.
And which helped you buy some supplies.
Yes.
Yep, we got a lot of supplies, right? We
Mhm.
got that's how you got your Gemini Junior and all that jazz. And Katie, the other thing that we found recently was that even people, this only happens in Rhode Island. My daughter's father-in-law is a physical therapist, and he was running a silent auction for his group, and people not bet, but placed bids on Katie's cards and stuff. And we had a lot of people interested, and so they actually ordered Katie's cards over the internet. So we have found that so there's a situation where we're a social enterprise, we give back to our community, but also it comes back to us at the end. So it's kind of it's really cool. So what would you do to other people? You think about something. So you found what you wanted to do because you were interested in card making, okay?
Yes.
So is that what you would tell somebody else, is to think about something that you really enjoy doing, and maybe see if
Yes.
there's a way to make a business of it,
Mhm.
right? Take the classes, because we learned a lot,
Yes.
and we met a lot of nice people too, right?
Yes.
And the last one is follow your dreams, right?
Yes.
And if you don't try something new, you'll never know how far you can go,
Yes.
right? Next slide. I think that's the end for Kate. Yep, it is.
Yep.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you all so much. To Sue, Katie, Claudia, this has been an incredible opportunity to learn about some incredible funding and supports and ways to help young entrepreneurs or just entrepreneurs with Down syndrome or other disabilities access the information, the resources, and even the financial support to make that possible. And Katie, thank you so much for sharing your incredible products and your dream and your job and your business with us. We really appreciate that. We do have just a few minutes to take a look at some questions from the audience. We will now move on to our dedicated Q&A session and have our presenter respond to just a few of those questions. So one question that came up in the chat was, how much are they? I know that there's some questions about the cards and some of the work that or some of the products that you have, Katie. So I think maybe if we could just drop a link to your website and folks can get connected that way, that might be a good way to do that. Also, a great question about how does income affect their benefits? And is there an age limit to qualifying for funding? So Sue, I think if you wanted to maybe jump in here, or Katie, Claudia, if you're interested in sharing maybe some personal insights. Obviously, we don't want to get too far into personal business. I will also say, I guess as a caveat here, that anytime you're looking to start or grow your own business, this is a very personalized approach, right? We are talking about some sort of broader opportunities for people to access funding and get some training or some opportunities to connect with other business owners to really understand the ropes. But really, when it comes down to it, this is a conversation between the individual with a disability wanting to start and grow a business. Caregivers, I think of, I didn't mention this earlier, but I have an older sister with Down syndrome who is also an entrepreneur, and I've been very much a part of the conversations to help her sort of build her business, everything from inventory tracking to what color she wants to use for the next series of her jewelry that she makes, right? So there's some good conversation there, and I think it does require kind of those personal networks, whether it's natural support networks, paid support networks, to really help navigate that. So I know there's a lot in there, but maybe Sue, if you wanted to jump in and maybe share a little bit of your insight with regard to the age for qualifying, or the age limit for qualifying for funding question.
Yeah, so in our project, we're serving people 18 years of age and older, but we also have another initiative where we're working with transition centers and high schools to educate kids about entrepreneurship, to get them to start to think about what does it mean to own your own business. And so the kids will work on a project together in teams. So I think, just like with anybody else, people start working in different kinds of part-time jobs when you're like 12 or 13 years old. You walk dogs, you do the newspapers, you babysit, whatever it is that you do. So the younger, the better, because entrepreneurship is a really good, just the training around entrepreneurship is going to be lifelong learning. So it would be different for eligibility for funding for self-employment in each state. So you'd have to contact your own state to find out that information. The other question about income affecting benefits. Employment really defines for most people who they are. When you meet new people, they ask you, so what do you do? And people that come through our program are just so excited to show people their business card and introduce themselves as a business owner. And whether you had a part-time job or you own your own business, you have to report that income that you earn on a monthly basis to Social Security. With self-employment, there are deductions that can be made for the cost of your materials that that you need to purchase. And it's important to talk to a benefits specialist, which every state has, to help you to really look at that individual situation. In terms of medical benefits, um, I believe people can earn up to $36,000 a year and still have Medicaid coverage for their health benefits. And then there's a formula that the state uses with respect to income that the person has from, again, whether it's a job or whether it's self-employment. The bottom line is that income helps to improve the quality of life of the individual and their self-esteem. So I think it's important to talk to an individual benefits specialist on specifics regarding any one individual.
Thank you so much, Sue. And I will also reference some of our earlier webinars this year. NDSS partnered with the Social Security Administration Office to deliver a webinar that speaks to some of the benefits, issues, or questions that may come up with earning or even starting and growing your own business. So we'll try to get a link in the chat for that webinar so you all can take a look there and learn about some other resources that are specific to benefits and how that might work for your family or your loved one with a disability. Something else that I wanted to mention in their chat, there was a question about food businesses and whether or not individuals with disabilities would be required to essentially have the same credentialing, food safety, and otherwise to be able to run and manage their own business. I have to share that I am very proud and honored to have been the general manager of a dear friend of mine's restaurant, Tim's Place Restaurant in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Several years ago, Tim was, as far as we knew, the first and only person with Down syndrome to own a restaurant in the world. Some of you may have seen his story on social media and on the news. And this was an opportunity for me to learn a lot about entrepreneurship, specifically for someone with a disability. And yes, Tim was food safe certified. I remember going and sitting in those classes together. For any of you who may have taken those classes, having to remember the food temperatures to cook meat and things like that. So yes, those requirements would still be in place. I think that, we look at the years of public school education and the guidelines and the requirements of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and how individuals with disabilities access the curriculum within a school setting. And there are accommodations and in some cases modifications to that approach. That does not carry over to or apply when it comes to the credentials that are required for running a business. That's not to say that there aren't reasonable accommodations. I don't want to get too into the weeds here for an employer to offer to individuals or to provide to individuals with disabilities in the workplace. That's a little bit different. But yes, if you're wanting to own a food truck, you will have to have the sanitation grading to be able to operate that in accordance with your, your local certification or certifying entities. And it looks like we do have a few other questions in the chat, just wanting to have some general follow-ups. So to those questions, we will post again contact information for the National Down Syndrome Society's employment program page and our team, as well as in just a few slides here, I think we'll have some contact information for Sue, Katie, and Claudia. And so we will, with that, go ahead and close our questions. We are right at the 2 o'clock hour. Thank you all again so much for joining us today. Before we close, I'd like to just take another moment to thank Sue, Katie, Claudia for their incredible presentation. If you do have further questions, again, or comments, please feel free to reach out to us at employment@ndss.org. Again, employment@ndss.org. And we would ask too that before you leave today, or excuse me, when you close this webinar, you will have a post-event survey that we would like for you to take and give us some feedback so we can better inform our team and our efforts in the future for bringing you all the content information that you desire. So thank you so much again for your time today, and have a great holiday season. Take care.